Hi, I'm Terrance McNally here at Bioneers 2011, and with me right now is Meiny Prins. Hello, Meiny.
Hello, Terrance.
Meiny is the CEO of Priva. That's a Dutch company that creates state-of-the-art ways to achieve optimal energy and water efficiency in industry, horticulture, and the built environment. And 1 in 3 Dutch buildings use Priva systems, that's pretty significant. And you can learn more about the company at Priva, Priva.nl for Netherlands. Prins and Priva have won numerous prizes, including the first Clean Tech Star of the World Wildlife Fund, and she's also a member of the Dutch Trade Board and of the FME, which is the Technology Industry Entrepreneurs Association. So, welcome. Priva is a family business.
Yes.
Did you always know or suspect that you would end up in that business?
Not at all. No, not at all. No, I started having my own company, and that was more in the graphic design. So that's
totally different.
Totally different. But still, it has a lot to do with communication, branding, image, creativity, and that's not so different than when you're working in a technology company. And I went to the company about in 2003, something like that.
What led to you changing?
My husband. He was really the one who thought I could do more, and that would be a nice and good opportunity towards the future, also for the company, for the family-owned company. So that's it.
Now, I would think, by the way, that the earlier work of message and communications and marketing and branding is helpful. I mean, not that many CEOs have that background.
No. Sometimes they said to me, well, you have no technology background, so what it is to work within the technology world. It's a high-tech world. I mean, it's about bits and bytes and software and hardware and management information, and we are making hardware for reusing water as much as possible, for nutrient dosing. It's about intelligence in building, so it's a different world. And I think I'm just very happy that I don't have.
That you don't know all that.
Yes, because there's so many people working within Priva. They know much, much more about that. And the only thing that you have to do, if you're in my position, and I'm a very lucky person, just to connect. You connect the people.
To see the big picture.
Yeah, to see the big picture, but especially connecting the people with all the knowledge and stimulate and inspire them with having a vision that's more on the long term than what we're doing today. And that's the only job I have. That's a very nice job.
That is a very nice job. So you've mentioned it in that answer, and I mentioned it some in the introduction, but for someone who doesn't know Priva, what is it Priva does?
Well, Priva is in process control, but we are a kind of a small factory. We are really a factory. So we produce, we design hardware, a process computer, making and realizing that in 2 markets we are in climate control. And for the horticulture, we are world market leader. And there is what you do with a process computer. You increase the yield per square meter for the grower, using as less energy as possible and reusing as much as water as possible. And that makes us very sustainable in some way.
Now let me ask you a question, just in terms of, are you focused on specific kinds of horticulture, or is it?
Yeah, horticulture is what you call the greenhouses.
That's what I figured.
Yes.
Okay, so we're not talking about vast fields. We're talking about
so
we're
that's
in
really
a greenhouse
niche.
where you have more control.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's really a niche in the world. That's right. But I figured out, and that's also the reason why I came to California, to investigate in what can we do with the technology we developed for the greenhouses and bring that more to the open field.
Oh, really?
Yes, like soft fruits.
And how far are you into that? Are you just in the kind of envisioning and investigating?
Yes, we're investigating, but it sounds very interesting to do, because on the water issues, then you don't have the climate issue. In a greenhouse, you can do something with the climate, you can control.
Right.
But outside, you cannot control climate. But there, the water is much more the issue. And I think, yes, we hope that we can add something to more development in that case.
Obviously a vast market.
Yes.
So that's the horticulture piece.
Yes.
Then there's the building, and that's the regulation of the way air and water are used in a building?
It is the building automation. That world is completely different than from horticulture. There we're international market leader. We have more than 80 countries in the world. For building automation, we have different competitors, colleagues, like Honeywell and Schneider and Siemens. That's a big world. There are a lot of buildings in the world. We started there in the Netherlands, and we grew there tremendously. And we hope to grow also more international. We have to grow more international. So we started in England and in Germany, and within a couple of years we will really also go over or further than Europe. There is the point that we work always with partners. We never do a project ourselves. So our customers is the installation market, the installers, the one who build the installation in the building. And we only bring the brains. So we only make the intelligence to make sure.
The brain is what you
the
said.
brain.
Yes.
Yeah.
They've got the physical body of the building, and you're providing.
We make sure that everything works so right together that people working in an office have optimal comfort, and we try to also reduce energy as much as possible, because energy is being used a tremendously amount in the building market.
Yeah, people think of trucks, they think of planes, they think of cars.
Really
buildings just, and in a place like, maybe not quite so much in the Netherlands, but a place like California, it's all about air conditioning.
And we also know that it's not so very difficult. It's quite easy to reduce energy use in buildings just by checking your installation for once. Having a little bit monitoring your energy makes really difference. And I'm talking about differences about 20 to 30% of reducing your energy. That's a lot to your bill.
Exactly. Yeah, this is one where doing what's good for the environment is always good for the bottom line, because you're going to cut energy use. Has Priva always had these two, horticulture and built environment, separate?
They were separate.
And you've brought them together.
Yes.
How has that been? Is there a kind of an elegant integration that makes both better?
It was based on the vision that the world is getting more, it looks like the world is getting more fluid. Mm-hmm. And the food production and the building market are coming more and closer together. And you see it in California, but you see it in so many places in the world, that there will be more and more fight about the resources, like energy and water, between agriculture and between where the people live.
Sure.
So we have to bring those worlds together. And that's what Priva did within his own company, to bring those two, what were very separate companies. They only met like 4 times a year. And I really integrated them together, and we built it together with the people for Priva, a complete new strategy for the next decennia.
Okay, now one thing I read about was that you led your company and asked your company to envision what the world will look like in 2040.
Yes, right. Where did you find that?
I don't know. I did my research, yes.
Yeah.
And then to transform the company, was it at this integration moment?
Yes.
So that it would fit the world in 2040. Describe that process. I like that, because a lot of people don't think that far ahead.
It is very important that everyone understands why you want to change in your company yourself. I mean, the people are the change.
That's right.
So if you don't involve them, it's a hard process. And I like the knowledge and the inspiration from the people to build up a new future. So what we did was we invited just everyone and in separate groups, but kind of big groups. And I first started to have all trends visualized up to 2040. What kind of new young coming employees will be the next generation? What do they want?
What are people going to be like?
Yeah. How is it with our elderly people? What do they want? What about the water resources? Energy, we know about probably in 2020 we will solve our energy problems. That's not our problem towards the future. Water will be a problem, and food production will be a problem.
Wait a sec. What did you say? You said we'll solve our energy problem?
Yes.
You just kind of said, you just took that for granted?
Yes, we will solve it.
Good.
You're happy now?
Yes.
Yeah. It is more.
And so what you felt were the other, but then you said that one will solve. The other ones that concerned you were?
Yes, you can. For energy, it's logic. Everyone knows that we can replace the way we work with our energy production today. We can replace that for something else. I mean, that's there. There's enough energy.
In other words, you're saying the next 2, 3, 4, 5 steps we may not know, but if you go that far ahead, you just take for granted that we no longer are dependent on oil and coal, that we're dependent on renewables, and that we probably have gotten enormously more efficient.
Yes.
Because that's really, I mean, efficiency and conservation.
Yes. If you look at the big trends in the world according to energy, we know that if it's like a graphic like that, that about half of it, this part of the total figure, is about reducing energy use today. So it's about
it's about waste, basically.
Energy efficiency.
Yeah.
As someone ever told me that go to a shop, buy 3 bottles of very, very nice wine, and while you walk back home, you empty 2 bottles of the 3 nice wine on the street. And that's the way we work with our energy supply today. So we can really do much more than we do.
It's a good image.
Yes, especially when you like wine. So that's a part of it. And then the underneath, the last part, is about a little bit of wind, a little bit of solar, a little bit of bio, a little bit of, so we need everything. It's not a choice between solar or wind. We need everything.
Okay, now, when you were looking at what the world looked like in 2040, and I realize from your answer to that question, you've already sort of anticipated. My next question was, I often ask people, you know, if you could step into the future and look backwards, did we solve our problems? And if so, how did we do it? And you have, when your company envisioned 2040, we'd solved a lot of our problems.
Yes, but I'm worried.
Ah, okay. What are you worried about?
I'm worried about that technology-wise, we can do so much more today than we're already doing, and it takes so long because the struggle to make really the changes are very difficult, and it has to do with the institutes, the way politics are run, how do you say that, the way we look at the business or what we want to earn our money with, and what is important to have the taxes going to the governments, and they don't want to change, and that really worries me.
So let me just see if I can flesh this out a little more. So you're saying that we're moving much more slowly than we could be.
Yeah.
That it's not the technology or the innovation or the inventiveness.
No.
That the problems seem to be the institutions, regulations, codes, all those sorts of things.
Yeah, and we are trying to say, well, yes, let's invest even more in developing in even more new technology, and then we solve the problems in our world. And I'm like, stop it. I mean, we have so much new technology already on the shelf. It is about time that we implement it. We need to do it. And then see that it works, that you have a good return on investment, that you can show that's a feasible economic case. And if we start to do that, then you make changes. If the government in the Netherlands said, well, as a person, you may deliver more than 500 kilowatt hours a year, so electricity back to the net, to the grid, if that could be more than 500, then you get suddenly feasible business cases.
So, I mean, obviously, I'm ignorant, and I'm assuming most of the people watching are probably ignorant of the way bureaucracy functions in the Netherlands. I mean, you know, we certainly know that you know, there's lots of obstacles to innovation in the U.S. Is the culture of the Netherlands particularly stuck or regulatory, or are you just saying that's sort of the way it looks kind of across the board these days?
Yes, I think it's more a global problem.
So, what's going
from the Netherlands.
What's going to change it?
Well, what is nice in the Netherlands is that because we are on a little stamp in the world.
In size, yes.
In size, with a lot of people on that stamp, we had to be very efficient in the last couple of years. So that's something that we're very good in recycling water, reusing water, reducing energy use. We're very good. We're pretty good in that.
And I mean, my sense about the Netherlands is because you are underwater.
Yes.
You have had to take nature into account
Yeah.
in a way that a lot of countries didn't. I mean, you've
Yes.
always had to say, how does what we're thinking of
Yeah.
doing fit with nature?
But they also say that the Netherlands is also like the best practice of Europe. So we want to be the best in school, in class. That's not always handy, but sometimes it really works because of
You can appeal to that.
Yeah, the rules and the regulations in the Netherlands helped innovation. And you see that very much in the greenhouse sector, where the food production is about 10 years ahead in what you see in the rest of the world, in efficiency and environmental friendly producing food. And that was because of rules and regulation. How do you say that? Chloride of bromide, what you still can use here for the ground, the soil, yeah. To clean that was already prohibited in the 80s. We were not allowed to have too much CO2 because of the energy use. So the reduction when we were not allowed to use any chemicals in the greenhouses. So we have the bees and the wasps and whatever there is on biological systems in the greenhouse.
One thing you're saying, by the way, is that what I heard you saying is because of our particular situation,
yes,
we had to have stricter regulations, and that those regulations, rather than holding you back, actually pushed you to innovate.
Yes.
So when
you need an incentive.
Yeah, the problem you're describing then is not so much a Netherlands problem.
No.
It's because Priva is a global company.
Yes.
It's other countries that you're running.
If you want more sustainability in the world, and it starts with the entrepreneurs, you need incentive. You need something that he feels like, I'm going to earn some money with that. It's not only an investment, but it will be a return on my investment. And then you're having the right buttons to turn on to make it really work.
So is that, even though you are heading a company in the Netherlands, is now your perspective, how do I change global regulations? How do I change regulations in other countries? I mean, it sounds like you've come upon an obstacle that extends beyond your company's borders, but also even beyond your country's borders.
Yes, in the Netherlands it really was like that, and I started to try to help the government to change certain rules and to change or to make new rules while we can stimulate new things. That's still my position today. I think I'm 50% busy with big changes in the Netherlands, politic-wise, and 50% is my company.
I understand. Finally, let me ask a question that I've asked a lot of the folks I've been interviewing here, which is that if the link that makes someone a Bioneer or makes someone say, yeah, I guess that fits me, is that we tend to learn from natural systems. We tend to look at natural systems and say, well, how is that working, and learn from them, and then attempt to live as much as possible as if we are actually part of nature. How does that thread show up in your work?
It is in what we do, especially in horticulture. I mean, in buildings, it's more difficult, of course, except when you look at, like the Priva company, my building is CO2 neutral. We have no gas, and it's always 22 degrees without air conditioning and without gas. So that's nice. And we only use water for that. And we have a kind of a grass or moss on the roof.
On the roof?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's for isolation, because we know that's the habit of that feature. And so, yes, it is possible. And it's not really, it's also economic interesting to do so. So it's not just like a nice story you tell to each
Exactly.
other. Yeah, so it's really something.
Yeah.
In the food production, it's even more. So we work much more with nature than anyone can imagine.
And finally, let me ask one last question, which is, I believe story is the way that people engage with things and understand them and so on. What sort of stories are you telling these days?
I'm telling stories about fish swimming in the water and they poo and we call it nutrients and the water goes to the tomatoes and we know exactly what nutrients tomatoes need and we catch it up and we disinfect it and we add rainwater to it and it goes back to the fish. And those are the stories that is connected to pilots that we are really actual doing. Like we work with schools to reduce the CO2 level in the classrooms, make the reduction on the electricity bills, and stimulate, create new dynamic to show with little showcases you can inspire people and they start doing it, and that's the point.
Very good.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, Meiny.
Thank you.